Welcome to the channel. My name is Marco, and today we're back with another comic rant, and the topic is, should you get your books graded? Now, some people think, it's only for scalping, some people it's for preservation, and some people it is to make that extra buck. Now, there's various reasons why you might want to or might not want to, but before we get into it, let me tell you about my giveaway. I'm giving away 3 awesome comic bundles at 500 subscribers. That's right, 3 lucky subscribers will each win one of these 3 comic bundles. All you have to do to enter is simply be subscribed and leave a comment on this video. If you would like additional chances to win, you can watch other videos on my channel and leave comments on those as well. Each comment on a new video is another chance to win. Good luck. Alright, now this can get sometimes a bit of a heated discussion. Everybody's got different opinions. And it might be yes for some people and no for other people. Now, me, myself, obviously, I do believe in getting books graded, but I'll go into why, obviously. I have, I think, 13 slabs right now. I have like over 20 sitting at CGC also at the moment. And then I have about at least 10 books, I think, on me that I would like to get graded, including some of these right here. I decided, you know what, this is a comic book channel, so I'm going to start putting out some comic books each video, and I'll just throw something there in the background. But, like I said, so I will say there is a little bit of, some people feel like, don't get me wrong, I think you should always be doing stuff for the love of comics and the love of the characters and all that. If you're not interested in this stuff, you don't need to be in this market. That doesn't mean you can't make money, because ultimately, I mean, money makes the world go round. And like, if I sell a book, it might be to get another book that I couldn't afford before. I buy a book when it's cheap, hold on to it, it becomes a more valuable book, and I sell it and get the book that I wish I could have got originally. I just have to add a few extra steps into it. And then, sometimes things happen as well. Life happens. You might have car problems or this or that or whatever, a new kid or whatever, and it's nice to know that you do have money in your books just in case something does pop up. I think a lot of us don't want it, no one wants anything bad to happen and have to sell our books, but it does give a little bit of sense of security knowing, hey, if something does happen, these books are worth this much money, and it's a little nice to have security in the things that bring you pleasure as well. It's a nice little duality you have there. So I just want to go ahead and combat that. Now, granted, if you're one of those people that think flipping is just for sellers, I'm not saying that you have to be persuaded to my opinion. I'm just going to say that I don't agree with that. First of all, there is a lot of preservation that is within within getting comics graded. Now, depending on what you have, especially if you have a really old book, and sometimes it might even not be if it's I saw somebody at the shop one time buy a Black Panther. It was in super low grade. I'm sorry, not Black Panther, first Black Panther, Fantastic Four, I forget the number, but like that's a book you probably want to get graded because it's already got so much damage on it. And it's still a great book. It means a lot to you. It still costs a lot of money to get a book like that in any grade, So if you have one that's very, very low grade and very damaged, getting it graded will forever preserve it so it doesn't get any more damaged. Because a book like that, isn't very difficult to just completely destroy. And even if it's not that low of a grade, sometimes it's, it's pristine and you want it to be pristine. I know there's a lot of, there's a great satisfaction in knowing like you have an immaculate copy of a comic. And to each their own. If you don't care if your book's a 9.8 or a 7.5, as long as it looks good to you, then, that's more power to you. If you just want to collect it because it looks cool or it's nostalgic or you like the story or whatever it is, but you don't really particularly care about the grade, all good. Or if you don't even want to grade it, if it doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter to you, and that's the end of the story. But there's some people, myself included a little bit, that like to have a really nice clean copy, and we're also a bit of a rarity hunter. Some people like to have nice things, And so even when it's a book that might not be worth that money, having it at that 9.8 is like, ooh, that's something special. Or even if it's an older book that you're probably not going to get a 9.8, but you're like, ooh, I got that 8.5, and it's a really, really old, hard to find book that, you just can't get in good condition. So, or even, if you had like an Amazing Fantasy 15, you're like, ooh, I got that 3.0, like it's going to vary and depend on what book it is and this and that and how old it is and whatever. But I think to some people that's really going to make a big difference. And if not, if you don't care, then, more power to you. I'm not that simple. I'm not that easily pleased, I guess. But I do want to talk a little bit about the value of books and how, like I said, I mean, like for example, I have some books that, well, I guess my philosophy when I'm getting any book is I buy books because I like them for the most part, but I'm not particularly tied to any comic. I think there's a price limit. This is what I always say anyway. There's a price for any book. So just because I really like a book doesn't mean I'm going to keep it forever. If it gets to a certain point and it's like, I spent $50 on that book. That book's now $2,000 and I think it's a good time to sell. I'm probably going to sell that book because, like I said, that could turn into something else that there was no way I could have afforded before, or even if it's just extra, even if it's not a single book, maybe I take that money and put it into multiple other books and then, watch as those books grow and then, do the same thing with those and then get more, take one book into 5 books, into 10 books, into 20 books, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I still do it for the love of and the passion of collecting comics and being a nerd. So I don't do it to get rich, but I don't know. I see this stuff as being valuable property as well and valuable collectibles, and that's just part of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. In a perfect world, none of it would cost anything, and we could all have any book we wanted, but that's not the world we live in. There's a limitation, I know, to what I can afford, and I'll do whatever I can. Well, not whatever I can. I'm not, not going to go underhanded and be doing people dirty, but, I'll take extra steps to try to, make it to where I can afford better stuff. So, that's just my stance on it. I know some people like won't even sell comics. They're like, well, if I'm going to get rid of a comic, I might trade, but, I don't like to sell comics. I'm in it for the love. It's like, I'm in it for the love too, man. I'm in it for the love, but unfortunately, the world's in it for money, I guess, is the best way. You got to play by the world's rules. And then kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was really, if you're dead set, okay, I'm going to get books graded, kind of when should you get a book graded? What kind of book should you get graded? And stuff like that. So, for example, I think any book I have chilling back here could be considered a gradable book. I don't know if you can you see the red Hulk and everything? Yeah, there we go. I think any of those could be, well, the red Hulk's got a little bit of rubbing on it, but these are hot books. I think they have a lot of, maybe not this one. It's a hard to get third printing of Berserker, but I could see someone getting it graded for sure. And it should be a pretty pristine copy as well. First Rogue, great copy. Definitely get that one graded. First Riri, or First Cameo, whatever. Definitely a great book to get graded. I think both of these are probably the 2 better books to get graded, in my opinion. Eventually, I'll probably get all 4 of these books graded. And some people, I see people talking about it like online and stuff, and it's like, well, what price point do you consider getting a book graded? And it's not necessarily what price point it is now. Sometimes you want to be ahead of the game, especially like if it's something like I said, I have books that I really like, but like I said, any book, if it hits a certain price, and each price is going to be different depending on the book, but if it hits a certain price, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't mean that much to me. I can let it go for X amount of money. But I have other books that it's like, this is a cool book, but I'm really not that attached to it. I buy books that I think, are good spec books all the time. I love the spec game. I really do. I think It's fun. It's like investing, but nerdier, and I don't know. I get to talk about it. That's about it. So, for example, the one book I have multiple copies of getting graded right now is Invincible Iron Man #1, Volume 3. It's the first Ironheart cover. I got 3 of those getting graded, and you want to be ahead of the game sometimes. Actually, when I sent those in, it was maybe a $15-$20 book. Now it's like closer to 30, and right now CGC is taking like 6 months to get books back to you. So I want to get that in early. So in 6 months, a raw copy might be $100. It might be, who knows? We'll see. And then obviously, as it gets closer to the show and more information comes out and trailers and this and that and whatever, that book will continue to rise. And I don't want to send in books then to get graded. I mean, obviously you still can, but especially I have multiple copies. I'm probably going to keep whichever's the highest grade and then sell off the other 2. But with that being said, I want to sell those off at the right time. So if you wait until that book is as hot as it can be, and then you want to get it graded, don't get me wrong. It's not a definite thing, because ideally that's the time period, like when the show's coming out, and everybody's talking, like right now, everybody's talking about Loki, which by the way is amazing, really liking it. But this is like the same, if I had a first Loki, extra first Lokis, which I know that's a completely different price book, but just, bear with me as an example. This would be the time I'd be trying to sell it, And same thing with Ironheart. Around this time with Ironheart is when I want to be trying to sell my extra copies of Invincible Iron Man 1. So that theoretically might be the high point for it, but however, it could be, that the series is great. If I sell it while the show's going on, maybe the finale and the whole season of it's incredible, and then it keeps ramping and ramping up. And gets even bigger. There are hard times to say exactly when to sell something. But my point, I'm deterring a little bit. My point being is, obviously, if you wait until the show's happening or just getting ready to happen, it's going to take you months to get the book back. By then, who knows? I mean, hopefully we're shorter than 6 months wait time. But it's kind of doubtful at this point. I don't know. It just seems like it's getting worse. We need to open up a whole separate CGC facility with double the employees or something, and CBCS, and just I don't know how to do this. I think ultimately at the end of the day, the problem is there just isn't enough qualified graders to keep up with the demand. I don't know if this will become a more sought after market, if they're really going to try to train more people to do this and expand it. I don't know, but regardless, wait times are going to be rough. You want to get it done ahead of time, and preferably the sooner the better. And now I know there are different price points, like for Invincible Iron Man #1 probably isn't that big of a deal. But I think it's at $4,000 is when a book starts to cost more money. So if you do have a book that's already pretty big, I'm trying to think of one that's kind of right there. Basically, you have a book that's maybe already like a $3,000 book that has good chance to keep growing even higher. You want to get that graded beforehand, so you'll pay less. If you wait until after it hits over the threshold, then you'll be paying more to get your book graded, because CGC or CBCS, whoever, they charge more to get certain books graded, or to get in certain values graded. So that's another thing to keep in consideration. Again, depending on the book, if you are in that danger zone of maybe going to the next tier level, then you probably want to go ahead and get it graded before you get to there. As a general kind of rule of thumb, if there is no speculation behind the book that you're getting graded, it's just a good book you want to get graded. Granted, you never know when something, you can wake up tomorrow and, there's a new leak from Disney that this is going to happen or whatever. They release a new announcement or something, and it's like, oh, well, this $10 book I had is now, how much every money. But, keeping all that aside, people will have different price points. I hear some people say, it's not worth getting a book graded. For me, kind of until it's like $100 book, like raw. It's like that's a book you want to get graded. Some people, it's like it's not worth it until it's $1,000 book. And I saw somebody the other day say, don't do it unless it's a $30 book. And again, it just really depends. To me, if it's a book I believe in that will grow in value, then I don't have any problem getting it graded. If it's a book that I just think will remain and keep a strong value, if it's a really good key issue or, I don't know, nice cover or something, like if I had the Strange Academy Peach Momoko Magic cover, that, especially the Virgin, like that's one to get graded. It's a very good book, and I don't see it going down, at least not drastically, in quite a while. So it's going to depend. It's going to depend on you. It's going to depend. Obviously, you have to put in money to get a book graded. So is it worth it to increase the value? If the book has more sentimental value to you, it might be worth getting graded, even if it's not worth that much. Maybe you just want it graded because you really like it. Maybe it was the first comic you ever read. Sure, get it graded. At the end of the day, and I feel like I take this stance on a lot of things, but do whatever makes you feel best. But if you're looking for investment advice, I really highly recommend getting books graded before, if you have good faith in them. Don't do it on willy-nilly any book, but if you have good faith in a book, get it graded before the hype is at a peak. You got to look, like I said, you have to look 6 months in the future at a minimum. At a minimum. And really, now don't get me wrong, don't, just because it's it's like, that show's coming out in 4 months, that doesn't necessarily mean don't get it graded. Again, like I said with Ironheart, it's not like it's going to be that one show and done. That character is going to continue and persist on. So who knows? It might, a year after the show comes out, the book might be worth even more. I don't know. You don't know. It's all speculation. But I just think getting it done as early as possible, so that way, in case when the show comes out and you're like, man, this book is ridiculous, I have to sell it now. This is a good time. I'd rather be prepared to have that option than to have waited, a month before the show came out and then sent it off to get graded. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to get it back for, another 5 months. Maybe. Like I said, who knows by then? And then, you get the book back, and then by then maybe the comics come down. And you're like, oh, I wish I did this earlier, but I procrastinated and didn't do it. But like I said, everything has different variables, and it depends on what speculation's going out there. And I just try to be ahead of the curve. That's my I need a shirt that says ahead of the curve, because that's what I really do try to be. That's how you're going to win. That's how you're going to win in the speculation game. That's how you're going to win on really putting money down in books and getting good investments and growing your collection. Like I said, I started earlier at the beginning of this year. Technically, I got my first slab December of last year. And I think I've come quite far in that time. I want everything, I do. I want every book that I, see. But I can't do that. I got to make the most out of it, and I really am trying to make the most out of it. And that doesn't, for some people, that might just mean be happy with what you have. For me, it's like keep grinding, keep getting more and more and more, figure out how to make one book into 2 books into 5 books, And to me, that's what's fun. That's what I like to do. I've always kind of been a bit of a hustler, and I've been making money since I was probably 8 years old. But that's just how I am. Again, let me know your comments, your opinions. I said that kind of in the weird way. Let me know your opinions in the comments. That's what I meant to say. I'll definitely, I'll reply back to you. I'd love to see everyone's individual takes on this this matter. Because like I said, I know there's different price breaks for everybody. Some people just don't believe in it at all. Some people want to get way too much graded. They're like, calm down. That book is that's not really anything, and you probably don't need to waste the money, but they want to do it. So let me know how you get your stuff graded or not graded, or thinking about it, or this or that or whatever. But I will be back tomorrow, right? Yeah, I gotta think what day it is. But yeah, we'll be back with some cool stuff for sale. We got a lot of new comics in at the shop, and I can't wait to show you all some of them. But that's gonna be it for today. See you next time. Ha ha ha!